Our next fabulady is Christine Litwicki. She's a certified personal trainer at Lifetime Fitness. She has completed several a marathon and numerous triathlons, and she helps other people train for marathons and triathlons. She has an undergraduate degree in psychology, and combining that with her fitness experience, she has this philosophy that health and fitness are actually really specific to the individual. I had a chance to have breakfast with her this morning, and I want to say, you know, please, if you have the chance later today, come talk to her, talk to Sogol, talk to Anna, and all the other speakers today, because you'll learn a lot and you'll just have a lot of fun. So why don't we hear from Christine?
Good morning, everybody, and thanks for coming. I feel like I should just rush right out to the doctor right now and get all my shots. I'm like excited to do it. She made it sound so fun. Let's just go. But again, good morning and welcome again, to the second annual conference. And my name's Christine Litwicki, and I've been a trainer for about 6 years and taught group exercise classes, group cycling classes, and did some triathlon coaching, and I've also taught swimming as well. Speaking of taking care of people, I also have a husband, 2 boys, and a dog that, as of late, that I'm taking care of. So very important to put ourselves kind of farther to the top of the list. And obviously you all did that today. It isn't easy to find time for yourself, and congratulations to all of us for putting ourselves at the top of the list today on a beautiful Sunday. I'm sure all of your food was still hot when you ate it, and you didn't have to cut it up for anybody. So, last year's event was an inspiring, uplifting event for all of us, and I'm really, really looking forward to another one today. So first, I'd like to say thank you to Maria for inviting me back to talk with all of you. Last year, I introduced how you can bring health and fitness into your life and to make time for it. And this year, we'll progress to talking about how you can move forward with your exercise program. In other words, we'll be discussing pushing your fitness limits, whatever they may be. As I was composing this speech, I was in Kona, Hawaii, watching my brother, who's an elite triathlete, complete his 14th Ironman triathlon. For those of you who wonder what that is and how long it is, it's a distance race. The first part is a 2.4-mile swim in the ocean. The second part is a 112-mile bike, and then the third part is a marathon, all in a row. So, as I was watching, I was thinking, that was definitely pushing limits. But don't worry, I'm not going to tell everyone here to go out and rush out and do an Ironman. That's okay. But by the end of this discussion, you'll learn 3 important things about yourself. What are your limits today? Why you should push them, and how you can go about breaking past those fitness barriers. Pushing those limits. I'm sure you're thinking, I already push my limits every day in everything I do. Schedules, work, kid stuff, everything. And by the end of the day, by 5 o'clock, you're probably at your mental and physical limit anyway. And some of us may be wondering, is she really going to tell me to run a marathon or climb Mount Everest today? Because if so, I'm going for another cup of coffee, and I need to come back to listen to this. But don't worry, we'll find something for everybody, even if your current exercise threshold is maybe going to get the mail. So let's start with the obvious question. What are my fitness limits? How do I figure this out? Let's return back to my Hawaii story for an example of how I found a fitness limit for me. It involves a clear fear of sharks. So the swim course in Kona, Hawaii is a beautiful, beautiful stretch of water off the shore, about 60 feet of water or so. And during the race week in Kona, Hawaii, there's this custom, speaking of coffee, is to swim out a mile to a coffee boat. And it's the Kona coffee boat. Grab a cup of coffee while you're in the water and swim back. So I thought, well, let's try that. So my brother, who was doing the race, and my father, who's also a triathlete and a scuba diver, we all went out to swim. And we were swimming, and I was just really excited to try that tradition. So who here wouldn't want to go swim a mile for a cup of coffee? Well, maybe I thought I was. So I'm a strong swimmer, and I went to work, just chopping away through those waves, swimming through the beautiful blue ocean on an 85-degree day in September, watching the fish and rocks below me, and then I was swimming a little bit more, and halfway to the coffee boat I realized it's just blue. And I looked around, and it was more blue, and there was no rocks and no fish below me. And all I could think of was not getting that cup of coffee, but those Shark Week documentaries where the shark jumps out of the water and gets the seal in its jaws. So right then and there, that was my limit. And with a little panic rising in my throat, little tears behind my goggles, I looked at my dad and said, I can't do this, and let's go back to the shore. So once I saw the bottom, my fears relieved, life was good. But not all of us have such limits like that to push, and this is definitely an extreme example of limits. But a first visit to a health club for someone who's never exercised, that could be just as scary. Or riding a bike at 45 years old as opposed to 10 years old, that can be just as scary as that. Just as scary as me dangling there in the Pacific Ocean with no rocks below me. And for a lot of people, even standing up in front of a crowd like this, they'd probably rather go swim with sharks than stand up, because that's a big fear of everybody. So why in the world would I want to make anything harder for myself, especially in the world of exercise? Every day as moms, spouses, teachers, caregivers, we watch people push themselves and do great things. We watch football games, baseball games, swim practices, everything. And you wonder, how can our kids and friends keep up the pace? Well, maybe I should be the one out there. Aren't you tired of watching instead of doing? We can often be their cheerleaders for everyone in our whole life. But now it's your turn to do the doing. It's easier to sit back, support, and cheer, but we need more for ourselves, definitely. But how can pushing your fitness limits benefit you in your real world? Let's think of what happens to your mind and body when you push yourself and you do something that requires sweat, stamina, and extra physical and mental energy. Your heart rate increases, your senses sharpen, you become more clear-headed and focused. And wouldn't these effects be useful in many other times in your life? Doing something completely or even a little bit out of the box can work wonders for your confidence and self-esteem. Challenging yourself to move past what is easy and comfortable can only result in a stronger body, mind, and spirit. In my profession as a personal trainer, I have known several women who have reluctantly went above and beyond what they thought their fitness limits were and reaped the same benefits. For example, there's a stay-at-home mom that I know that I've met in the gym. She dedicated her life to her kids like most of us do, put herself last on the list, worked out a little bit here and there, and was trying to find something for herself. She settled on bodybuilding. So now she's trained for shows, and she's actually placed in those shows. Don't you think the confidence and drive necessary to place in a bodybuilding show at a certain age would serve her well in dealing with her kids, especially two of which are teenagers? She could probably arm wrestle them, probably. Or the woman I coached who was truly afraid to swim. And those of you who maybe might have that fear can understand that's scary if you've never done that or if you don't have any desire to swim. But she could run 5Ks, had a great career, did a lot of different things, but had never learned how to swim. So after much courage and a little bit of tears, she was finally to be able to swim a length of the pool. And the next time she was up for a promotion or had to ask for a raise at her job, don't you think she called upon that memory of pushing her own limits to give her the self-assurance and strength to win that account or get that raise? After you do something like that, in your other activities, you'll remember, if I can do this, I can do anything. That helps a lot in a lot of different situations. Even almost pushing your fitness limits, like I did in the ocean, can give you the bravado you need at different times in your life. Your physical body will be able to handle the stresses of life, of which there are many, and it'll be able to handle them with ease because your body itself will be stronger and healthier. So the next question, what are your fitness limits? How do I figure this out? Let's keep it simple. I won't go over too many numbers, just like we talked about over there. We'll keep it very simple. When's the last time you did a pull-up, a push-up, or even exerted yourself? When's the last time you broke a sweat running? Maybe to chase someone with their backpack who forgot it at the bus stop? I did that the other day, too. I want you to think of what you do now physically to push yourself, and then add maybe 10%. Add 20%. If you enjoy a walk with your friends 3 times a week, that's great, but move forward from that. In order to see more results, feel stronger and happier, you need to move past that comfort level. And this is because whatever is comfortable, that's not your limit. If you love going to hip-hop class or maybe a Zumba class at your local gym, but it's getting easy, try something else. If you're absolutely terrified of taking a spinning class, do it anyway. because your body is very smart and can adapt to all kinds of exercise. It will adapt to all the stressors you put it through in the realm of exercise. And when those difficult workouts become easy, then they become less effective. So if you're currently doing nothing for physical exercise, which is a lot of us, then doing something is certainly pushing your fitness threshold. It's just making a habit of going to the gym can be a limit for you. And as the famous Jillian Michaels says, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It really does work. Okay, so we played along for so far, and by the interested looks I see, I haven't pushed your attention limit yet, which is good. So the logical next question is, how can I move past my own limits? During this talk, you should be thinking what your limits may be. Think about that in your head. But how do we push them? What can I do within my own life to move forward and get the physical and mental benefits that I really want? The answer is that there's not one answer for everyone in this room. But before we go further, another significant item to remember is that your fitness barriers can and will change as you get older. Just like the vaccinations and everything like that, things change and you have to be flexible with that. Sorry about that. Lost my place a little bit. But they may change on several factors based on age, bodily changes, pregnancy, menopause, all different things. And not to mention that awful I word, injury. I don't even want to talk about that word, but it happens. And this limit changer is worth discussing a little bit more. Most of us had a strain or a break or something that set them back problems, a lot of different things. But it leaves you wondering, what should my limits be? Should I even do this anymore? Many women effectively pass their fitness limits. They move forward, they do all these great things, and then there's a stop. And when the unpleasant and unexpected happens, you need to stop, reevaluate your limits, and move forward in a different way. I'm sure many of you can relate to the following personal story about an abrupt fitness limit change. It was early last June. You can just imagine that. Schools got out. You think of all these fun plans for the summer. Just signed up for a couple triathlons in Naperville to push my limits a little bit as well. And as we all should know by now, you should expect the unexpected. So you can imagine this scenario. I was innocently walking back from dropping off one of my sons after baseball practice. And as I was walking, I slightly rolled my ankle in a divot in the grass. Nothing too exciting. The menacing pop I heard when my foot bone broke instantly changed my fitness limits right then and there. Of course, like all of us would, I tried to convince myself that the growing giant bruise on the top of my foot was, oh, it's all nothing. Let's just go to the next baseball game. And I also had a birthday party that night for my 12-year-old. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But it was not nothing. And I would field many a question afterwards about how it happened. What cool and daring activity was I doing? Was it during a race? Were you climbing Mount Everest? Swimming away from a great white? No. Alas, my fitness limits changed the second I stepped in that hole in the grass. And those limits went from training to run, bike, and swim to being able to grocery shop, clean, and run the house with crutches and a big boot. So your lesson from this example is to be flexible and smart when pushing your limits, but don't be afraid to do it. Your attitude and clothes will thank you for it. Which brings us back. How do we push those limits? How do we break out of that comfort zone? And what activities are available to me? How do I get uncomfortable? There are 5Ks, 10Ks, marathons, adventure races, triathlons, bike races, too many things to count. But for some women, pushing their fitness limits for the sake of a healthy mind and body isn't enough. They would rather use their proverbial blood, sweat, and tears to further a higher purpose or cause, to do something for the greater good. There's no shortage of events that need our support to further the awareness of their charity. Short and long races, bike rides, triathlons are all done in the name of charity. I've been lucky enough to know several inspiring women who've gone beyond what they felt was physically possible to support their own personal causes close to their heart. I have a friend who's been exercising regularly for a while. She likes to bike, never ventured out beyond about 15 miles. That's about an hour. There's never a reason to push her mileage on the bike. But her father had passed away some years ago, and he loved to compete in cycle races. She'd never really ridden more than 15, But this year, in honor of her father, she rode 4